speaking today, and we're going to get it started off with the song "This Is the Day." And if you'd like to rise or stay in your seats, just join in the spirit. Yeah, maybe turn off your phones. Okay, where are we at?
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day to be seated, a day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Woo!
Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Sue Witter. I'm one of the practitioners here, and I want to welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your very busy day and in life on this holiday weekend to come and honor the truth of who you are and to open your hearts and your minds to allow a new way of thinking to begin to find its place. And I understand that we have some breaking news that we need to deal with today very urgently. So breaking news is running our way.
Hi everyone, I'm Olive Philpott.
And I'm Reba Stimple. Welcome to G4G News.
In today's news, Gourmets for God returns to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. It's the most anticipated fundraiser of the year, and it's reported to be the only fundraiser that you can eat. Isn't that right, Reba?
That's right, Olive. Sources have reported fun, fellowship, and fullness from attending these events.
They sure have, Reba. For those of you who want to get in on the fun, you can sign up to be a host. Experts have some tips to help you make the most of your event. Hosts should come up with an event that blends food with fun and fellowship. All events are welcome and can be as simple as hosting at your home or as grandiose as purchasing a meal for others at your favorite fancy restaurant. Cooking is not required, and virtual events are even accepted. Choose a date, set it in your calendar, because these events cannot be rescheduled.
Sounds like so much fun, Olive. Where can I sign up?
Starting today, Reba, you can pick up a form at Home's Base in the bookstore and submit it in person, or you can find electronic and printable versions of the form on our website at wvcsl.com and email or snail mail them to the center. Donation forms must be received by September 24th.
Well, I'm excited. I'll have to go check that out. Maybe I'll host a taco party. Olé!
Ha ha ha. That would be muy bueno, Reba. Thank you for joining us, folks, on this morning's edition of G4G News. This is Olive Philpott.
And Reba Strimple.
Signing off.
See you next week. And remember to eat well, be well, and live joyfully.
And the news desk goes with them. You don't see that very often. Want this? Where do you want that over here? All right. Well, that's a good way to start the morning. So we have some announcements. We have, well, first let's start. Let's do this in order as it should be. Shock for me. So Kay Fontana is the practitioner for the day today and will be available for prayer after the service for those who would like a prayer in person. We have a prayer box back in the corner on the altar, a place for a public prayer, and another prayer box out on home space. And one thing the practitioners love to do is pray for you. So if you have a prayer request for yourself or someone else, please feel free to ask. And our vision statement, if you would read that with me. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. So please come and join us. We have some classes coming up. And the one thing I didn't bring once again was the dates. Okay, Kay will tell us the dates of the classes. Teamwork.
Hello. So the intro to Science of Mind with Reverend Karen will be on September 6th, so this week, at 1:30 on Wednesday. And then the following Wednesday at 1:30 will be the Foundations class. It's an 8-week course, and both of those classes you can sign up at Homes Base next to Homes Base in the bookstore if you want to attend. And then Sue and I are also offering Reclaiming Wholeness? No, that's not it.
It's a class about wholeness.
Yes, it's a class about wholeness.
It'll be the first time we've taught it, but it should be fun.
Regaining Wholeness.
Regaining Wholeness.
Yes. I knew it was an R. And that one starts on
27th.
the 27th. And so of whatever month this is, September.
We're in great shape today, guys.
And I do not have a sign-up sheet up there yet, but it should be out there next week. What?
Dining with the Dudes.
Oh, Dining with the Dudes is next week? Dining with the Dudes is next week, next Sunday. So be there.
So as long as you're here. We might as well just get ready and have the Bradfords bring us into that moment of peace.
So just take a deep breath as we go within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, no.
I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
A quiet place. That quiet place in our mind, in our heart, in our soul. That quiet place that is all God. The God that expresses as love and peace and joy. And the trees outside, the wind that blows, the clouds in the sky. It is all God. God that is present in everything. The visible, the invisible, the seen, the unseen. It is all God. And knowing that each one of us right here, right now, is that divine, perfect expression of that beautiful God as we are one. And knowing this, I claim and affirm this for each one of us in this room and beyond, those who are not here with us, who are watching online, who are no longer with us in presence. Everyone, all things, all beings are that divine expression. And I claim and affirm this, and knowing with blessings that we are divinely perfect. And I speak a word of blessing for each one of us. And the Bradfords, knowing that their beautiful music and harmony touches our hearts and souls. As always, knowing that every note and every word that they speak and play is divinely guided and perfect right here, right now. And for all of those in service today, knowing that they are in the right place at the right time, doing their divine work. And for Rev Clyde, knowing that he is speaking the words of God that are flowing through him. And that each one of us receives that message that is absolutely perfect for each one of us. And for all faith traditions, knowing that there are many paths to that one God. And with great, great gratitude, I release my words into the action of universal law, knowing that it is done, it is so, and it is all good. And together we say, and so it is. My reading today is from What Religious Science Teaches Us by our founder, Ernest Holmes. Let me find my page here. And this tiny print. The reflection of an image in a mirror is an exact likeness of the image which is held before the mirror. So the law of cause and effect reflects back to us likeness of the image of our thought. Thus, we are told that we reflect the glory of God, but too often we reflect the fear and limitation of man rather than the glory of God. We must find new meaning to life if we hope to create new images, which, in their turn, will supply new reflections. Jesus told us to judge not according to appearances, but to judge righteously. If we judge only according to what is now transpiring, our reflection of these images will merely perpetuate the old limitations. But if we judge righteously, that is, if we look to the omnipotence of good, we shall create new images of thought which will reflect greater abundance. So let's take a moment and contemplate those thoughts. And so it is.
Help us out.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, if you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, boy. 'Cause it won't be long that I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, we're
Right up the road, we'll share your load. If you just call me, call me,
when you need a friend,
call me,
when you need a friend,
call me,
when you need a friend.
call me.
Oh, thank you, Bradford. Beautiful song. Got us back into the rhythm. The Gourmets for God announcement kind of threw everybody for a tailspin there. I think we're all excited about the new event coming up, and it has always been, I don't know, is this our third year or fourth year? Third year doing this, Julie? Gourmet, fourth year. Yeah, so and every year they do a different little skit, and it gets better and better, so that the pressure's on them. But anyway, so and then one other thing I want to share about the Gourmet for God. First of all, I love it. So it's an absolute fantastic event. Both cooking the meal, so Mark and I host a couple dinners, and we'll do it again this year, and then bringing everybody into the home. It's just a wonderful experience, but also going and just sharing that time with friends. And then the other part about you don't have to cook something. I think the highest bid last year went to the date with the chicken. So the Bradfords had a date with the chicken, and that what won the bid. So
there was food involved.
oh, okay. It wasn't the chicken, though. So okay, so more to come on the Gourmets for God event. It's going to be definitely a wonderful, beautiful experience. So, all right. So Reverend Karen is out again this week. As I shared with some of you last week, she told me she was going to be out last weekend for some time off for relaxation, and so I said, hey, I really need 2 Sundays to tell my story, and so I said, why don't you also take this week off too? So she is also taking this week off and enjoying her time off and rest and relaxation. I saw her over the weekend, and she's doing very, very well, and definitely is enjoying her time off. So the title of my talk today is part 2 of the 2 sons. And what we're talking about is a story in the Bible about the lessons from the prodigal son. Luke 15, verses 11 through 32. And I'm going to be reading some of the verses, and discussing the metaphysical interpretation of those verses. So the metaphysical interpretation of the 2 sons represent the 2 states of consciousness. There's 2 states of consciousness, and what I'm asking from you today is, can you be open to hear the story in a different way? So last week we talked about the 2 boys, and the story goes on where I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with the story, but one of the boys took all of his stuff that he received from his father, and he left home and he went afar, and he lived a riotous life. And then he realized, in living in that far country, that it was not so great. And then he wanted to return home to his father. So he felt isolated from the eternal good and the love. So these are some of the lessons that we learned from last week. So God never argues with us, always gives us what we want, and we are the life that we live. We are making choices every minute of every day. We live a riotous life because we are God expressing. We are that artist creating a masterpiece on the canvas of life. So the flower is in the seed. Everything that we need to know is already within us. And when we are in the flow of life, we feel loved, supported, and guided. And we are part of that divine flame that draws from that inexhaustible reservoir. So last week, the young man had a great awakening, and he wanted to return home. But he didn't feel worthy to return home. Oops. So the first thing I want to talk about today is self-condemnation. So the story goes, the prodigal son said, I will arise and go to my father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and I am not worthy to be called thy son, and make me one of thy hired servants. So this lesson is life-changing. God does not make mistakes. How many times do we feel unworthy? I used to have low self-worth until I started studying science of mind, started reading spiritual books, and developing my spiritual practice. So we have a class coming up, that Introduction to Science of Mind, Reverend Karen's doing. It's just a couple hours long or so, and then she has the Foundations class, which is 8 weeks long. That is a life-changing class. That's going to teach you our basic foundations of what we believe, and if you're ready to change your life, it's an incredible class. And we also say that I've taken the class 3 times, and each time that you take the class, so if you've taken it before, we encourage you to take it again, because the more that you take it, you're going to experience a different experience, because we're in a different place in life. And as I shared with you guys last week, Reverend Karen's in a different place in her life. So she'll be teaching the class differently. So please plan on joining her with that incredible class. So Ernest Holmes says, self-condemnation is always destructive, and we should never indulge in it with ourselves. So why do we beat ourselves up? Why do we say mean things to ourselves? So I had a ministerial instructor when I was going to school, and she said, if you're not loving God enough, if you're not loving yourself enough, you're not loving God enough. And that really stuck with me. So if we are God expressing, why are we beating ourselves up? Do we really believe that God is perfect? Do we really believe that we are that beautiful, individualized expression of life? So do we make mistakes? Yes. Are we learning and growing? I hope so. If not, you're going to keep making the same mistake over and over. So one of my all-time favorite books is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I have given this book out to many people over the years, and I've actually lived my life based on these four agreements. And the four agreements are: always do your best, be impeccable with your word, don't take things personal, and don't make assumptions. So the two that I want to really focus on today is, the first one is always do your best. Right? And so that's pretty straightforward. So the way we do anything is the way that we do everything, right? So we should have the intention of always trying to do our best of whatever that is. So that is pretty straightforward. But the other meaning to that, always doing your best, is remember that everybody is always doing their best at any given moment. If we're trying to make a decision, we're making our decisions based on what we know, based on the experiences we've had, and we make that decision. And sometimes they may not be a good decision, or it may not support us, but we did our best at that moment. Other times, I can remember if you're not feeling well, how many people go to work and they still don't feel well, and they go into work and they're doing their best when but they're not feeling good, right? I'll share with you. I don't know, I think it was last year or earlier this year in Tucson, on one of the projects I was working on. I work for in the health field and with hospitals operations, and we are converting this hospital to a new financial platform. And Mark and I both came down with COVID the week before, and that week that we were doing the conversion, I was supposed to go to Tucson. And I was too sick. I was exhausted. And I didn't feel well, but I had to still work because of this conversion. I had a very important part of it. So I worked from home, and I supported that conversion from home. And literally, all I did was I was on conference calls. I was reviewing information, and then when I wasn't doing that, I was sleeping, and I was even sleeping between conference calls. So I was doing my very best at my very lowest point, because I was feeling pretty bad. So we have to remember that in any given moment, every one of us is always doing our best. So the other one is, the other agreement I want to talk about is being impeccable with our word. So being impeccable with our word means believe or say what you mean and mean what you say. So I think that this should be one of the wedding vows that everybody should have when they're saying their wedding vows to each other, right? Because then it would reduce in some confusion and misunderstandings in your relationship. So it's important for us to say what we mean and mean what we say, right? The other side of that definition is, according to Don in the book, he talks about not saying anything negative about ourselves, not beating ourselves up. And so back probably in 2009, 2008, when I first read this book, so for a whole year, my spiritual practice was to not beat myself up. So anytime that I caught myself beating myself up, saying anything negative whatsoever about myself, I told myself I always have to say something positive to replace it. And I did that practice for a whole entire year. If you pay attention, you'd be surprised at some of the subtle things that we may say to ourselves. I'm always late. It takes me forever to get something done, right? All of those subtle comments that we're reinforcing with ourselves. So I will tell you today, I don't beat myself up at all. And believe me, I still make a lot of mistakes, right? But I don't beat myself up. So I really invite you to try that spiritual practice. For a whole year, make that commitment of not beating yourself up. And when you do, replace it with something good of who you are and what you're doing. And you'll see that it will change your life. So Ernest Holmes says, if we have sinned, it is because we have been ignorant of our true nature and because experience was necessary to bring us to ourselves. When we sin, when we make mistakes, or when we make unwise decisions, we need to be gentle with ourselves. It's only through experiences do we remember our truth. Sometimes we need to experience it more than once. How many times have you went through a similar experience only to realize the truth? We make mistakes. We make unwise decisions because we are ignorant to our true nature. Regardless of who we are or where we are, or we are always doing our best, and we need to be gentle with ourselves. So welcoming home. So the father saw the son at a far off distance, and he was welcoming his son home. So in the story goes, and he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. God is always present. We simply just need to recognize and accept his presence. So Ernest Holmes says, there is always a reciprocal action between the universal and the individual mind. As we look at God, God looks at us. When we start to recognize God, Spirit, and that loving energy, our life begins to change. We can never be outside of God or life. Life is here to support us and give us what we want. We believe that Jesus is one of our greatest teachers, showing us how to live with love and compassion. So when I was growing up as a teenager, I was a really bad boy. I was a bad teenager. And I got into a lot of trouble. I was skipping school. I was causing my parents a lot of grief. And I didn't know then, like I know now, part of that was because I was struggling with what happened to me as a child. And I shared with you guys that I was abused when I was a kid. And so I wasn't sharing that with anybody, and so I was struggling with it. And so I was a really bad kid growing up. And so I was so bad that my parents actually took me to court and placed me in state's custody, and I was actually put into a boys' home. So I was in a boys' home for a year and a half, and believe me, I learned a lot there. But the whole time I was there, and then even one time I remember running away from that boys' home, and when I ran away, I ran back to my parents' house, and they had to take me back because I was in the state's custody at the time, and so they had to return me back to that boys' home. But I will tell you, through that whole experience, my parents came to visit me every month. And they supported me, and even I was as angry as I was and everything that we were going through, they showed up every time. And then when I was released from the place about a year and a half later, and I went back home, and I finished out high school in my hometown, and of course by then my parents had moved to a new location, so I started making new friends, but my parents never gave up on me. And that's how God is. God never gives up on us. God is always there for us. So I'm very grateful that my parents were there, and I'm very grateful that I had parents that were loving and caring, and they would be there to take care of me. But the question is, why does it take so long for us to realize that our parents are really there to help us, right? They're not there to hurt us. They're not there to make our lives miserable, even though it feels like it sometimes, but they're there to help us. But they're always there, just like God is always there. So God does not condemn. So the story goes on to say, and the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and I am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his finger, and shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fattest calf, and kill it, and let us eat, and be merry. For my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to be merry. So one of the lessons in Christian religions is that God forgives us. God forgave the Son. The Father forgave the Son. But that's not what we believe. We don't believe in a judging God. We don't believe in sin. We believe in a loving God and only good. There is no duality of good and evil. There is only good in the absence of love. So bad things happen. But why are we judging? So an example that I want to give is to this is that when we have bad weather, we have these bad storms, like the fires or the floods, right? And what have we learned is this global warming, climate warming, right? So it's not God's will that's doing this to us. We're doing it to ourselves. And we're learning more and more about it, and we're actively taking actions now to do something about it. And it's never too late. It's always, we need to start right where we are, and that's what life is all about. We always start right where we are. Another example is of criminal acts. You know, all the shootings that are going on, or someone stealing something or hurting someone. All these bad criminal acts. So life has a way of keeping everything in perfect order. So we can't lie to life. Life knows exactly what's going on, and the law of cause and effect is what keeps that life in order. So God is not judging us or punishing us for our sins. Instead, God, life, only loves us and supports us. Through the law of cause and effect, we experience heaven and hell, not as a place, but a state of consciousness. We are all sinners because we have fallen short of our divine calling from one time or another. So Ernest Holmes said, if we have sinned, it is because we have been ignorant to our true nature and because experience is necessary to bring us to ourselves. I said this quote earlier because it's very important for us to understand. Our journey through life is to remind us of our truth. Some of us like to take a lot of detours. We live, we experience, we learn, and we grow. Sometimes we need to experience sin more than once so we can learn the lesson that we need to learn from life. So the stay-at-home son. Now we get to hear about the other son. So which son, which boy resonates with you? Which path would you choose? So the Bible verse goes on to say, now the elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called on the servants, asked what these things meant. And he said upon him, thy brother is come, and thy father has killed the fattest calf, because he received him safe and sound. The older son, he was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him, talked with him. And he answered, said to his father, lo, these many years do I serve thee, and yet thou never gavest me the calf, the kid, that I might make merry with my friends. So he can't have a party with his friends. And he said unto him, son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. So the older son was full of jealousy, resentment, and self-righteousness. So where do we start? What can we learn from the son who chose to stay home? He stayed home to take care of his family's land, but he was unhappy and he was jealous and resentful. He made a decision to stay home. He decided to go down a different path. Then he judged his other brother, or possibly blamed his brother for the decision. So there's three important lessons that I want to talk about the older brother. We cannot blame anyone for our decisions. We're responsible for our happiness, our experiences, and learning. That's okay. We got a backup mic. Can you hear me? There we go. So I'll just say that again. We cannot blame anyone for our decisions. We are responsible for our happiness, for our experiences, learning, and growing. We are making decisions every day, all day. So what decisions are you making? Do they support your happiness? So the second one is stay in your lane of life. It is none of our business what someone else is doing in their life. We will never know the whole story. We will only know what we see or what we hear or what the other person is willing to tell us. So stay in your lane of life. Just like you and me, they're doing the best they can. Sometimes it looks messy. Sometimes we are experiencing something to help remember our truth. Can we be compassionate in that moment and not judge or try to fix it? So stay in your lane of life. If you look over to someone else's life or someone else's lane, can you view it as a warning sign so that way you don't have to learn that lesson, or as an inspiration for possibilities for your life? So one of the things I love so much about group therapy, and I was telling Rev Karen this, is that when you're in group therapy and you're sitting around and you're hearing somebody else's story, and I know we've all done this, sometimes we think, oh my goodness, I am so thankful my life is not like that, right? And it reminds us like, oh, I'm just thankful that I'm not there. And then there's other times where we hear someone sharing and then the reverse happens. And we think to ourselves, oh, I experienced that same thing, but look what they did. And maybe I could have gone a different path. So it works both ways. So I love to hear about other people's successes, and I actually join in on their celebration. Their success gives me insight to possibilities for my life. I also love helping and supporting people to be successful, because their success is my success. So stay in your lane of life and trust that the law of cause and effect is always working. So I don't worry about when I see all the stuff that's going on in the news and judging what's going on and what's going to happen to those people. I don't worry about if I feel like at work or something, or experience something, I feel like somebody did me something wrong and they have to pay for what they did. I don't worry about any of that. Because why? Because I trust the law of cause and effect. Every action has a reaction. Every decision has an outcome. Life has a way of keeping perfect order. We can lie to ourselves and others, but we cannot lie to life. Our journey is to experience, learn, and grow. Leave the judging to people who we pay to do it. So the third lesson is everything that we want is already available to us. Life gives us only what we can accept. We get to choose how big or small we want to live. We get to choose how much we want to experience or express. What are you choosing? So our life is a spiritual journey to experience and express life. We are choosing what we want to experience and how we want to express life. Life supports our decisions and only says yes. The inexhaustible loving energy I call God is expressing through us. So I want to close with the quote from Mother Teresa. Be a living expression of God's kindness. And so it is. So let's take a moment and pray. Because we know the power of prayer and we know that it works. We know the way that we pray reminds us of our truth, our true nature of who we are. So we recognize how beautiful life really is. We recognize the beauty and the creativity of all the flowers all over the planet, all the different colors, all the different sizes. We recognize the abundance of life itself with all the leaves on all the trees, or all the needles on all the cactuses. We recognize the love of life, the love that we receive from our pets, the love that we receive from our loved ones, let it be a relationship, a close relationship, a friendship, a far-off friendship. We feel that love. That's that loving energy, that loving presence of God. And then that creative force, that loving energy of that creative force that wants to express through us, through each one of us. Because we are God expressing. We are that individualized, perfect expression of God. Each one of us is painting that masterpiece on the canvas of life. Each one of us brings that perfect gift that only we can bring into this world to share, to express. So we simply open ourselves up knowing that life is supporting us through this beautiful journey as we learn and we grow and we experience all the love and the joy and the sorrows and the pain. But what I know is that God is present in every moment. I know that we are surrounded by that loving force, that loving energy, that tender care. So we just simply allow ourselves to live life fully, to choose the life that we want to live, to experience the life that we want to experience. Because it's our decision on how big or small we want to play. And life says yes. Yes, my child, I support you. I love you. I see you. And I will always be here with you. So I give thanks to knowing this truth. I give thanks to knowing that we are never alone. That we are surrounded by all these angels of God's presence that love and support us on this beautiful journey called life. That we are open to the possibilities of expressing. And I am so thankful that of the Science of Mind teachings that teach us all these spiritual principles so we can learn to experience the life that we want to experience. So I just simply say yes to life, yes to God, and yes, knowing that I am that expression, that we are here to be that expression of God. So I simply release these words out into the law, knowing that we are living life fully. And together we say, and so it is.
For all
Thank you, Reverend Clyde. That was fabulous. And so many things about the prodigal son story, too, that touch my heart, that make such a big difference. And I didn't know you loved the Don Miguel Four Agreements book. One that I keep with me all the time is don't take things personally. If I had a nickel for every time I've have said that to myself and gave it to the church, we'd be in amazing shape. Amazing shape. And speaking of giving it to the church, it is now time for our giving and receiving. And so we don't pass the basket, but we have a box there on the way into Papke Hall, one back in the corner, and one out at home space. So please, if you have a gift with you, take it in your hands. And if you don't, if you give online or in some other way, just hold your heart open to the joyful giving affirmation. If you'll say that with me, I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Sing that with me. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. Now sing it. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Again. Oh, oh, it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life living, moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life living, moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life living, moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life. Live. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, it feels so good to be alive.
Thank you, Bradford. It does feel good to be alive. So, I want to welcome all the new people. We have a lot of new people here, so welcome, welcome, welcome. And we have fellowship, coffee, and snacks afterward. If you'd like to join us in Papke Hall. So let's close with our affirmation. Just repeat after me. I stay in my lane of life. And know that I am loved, supported, and guided. And so it is.